Hey gang, Scott here. In this video, we're going to dig into the masking changes that have come in Photo RAW 2026. The masking properties area has gotten quite an update, and there is more control that we have as photographers to build up some more complex masks with a pretty easy approach. And I want to spend a good amount of time in this video talking through that. But really quick, if you are thinking about adding Photo RAW 2026 to your toolkit, upgrading from a previous version, check the show notes, check below. There's an offer code down there that could save you a little bit of money. One of those offer codes is only good through the end of October 2025 because it's a little special. It applies to any promotion that ON1 is running right now. A lot of times the offer codes don't apply if ON1's running in the promotions. This one does. So check those out. So let's talk about this masking change here. The masking tools that we have, all the different brushes and gradients and line masks and color ranges, luminosity. We have all of those things. Those are still here, still available for us. But we have more ways to combine them. We can add, subtract different masks, building up the kind of masks that we really sometimes need to get exactly the type of adjustment we want on our photo. Let's start by just kind of going through, quickly applying a mask and then looking at what the changes are in the properties area. And then I'll show you another example of putting some of these into a little more of a complicated combination. I don't say complicated, but let's say more intricate combination to show you a little more of the power what these masking tools can do. The first little change with masking is in the Locals tab, Add Adjustment. We used to just have a button, you'd say Add an Adjustment, and it would give you a default of a -1 exposure. Well, instead now it says choose a masking tool. And all the masking tools are available here. And for each one of them, do you want to add or subtract a local adjustment? Once you've done something like that, if I just click Subject, for example, I get my tools, the mask is automatically created for me, and then I can do things. This is effectively the same as what we had before. In effect, it's pretty similar, where I could do, let's say, for something obvious here, black and white. Great, converted to black and white. What would I do in the past? I'd grab, a masking tool. Let's grab a gradient and say, for whatever reason, I don't want black and white over here. And I could add another one and say, I don't want black and white over here. I want black and white through the middle. For illustrative purposes, this is something that we would normally have done with a reflected gradient. You'll notice I just added two individual gradients that in previous versions of Photo RAW, this would have confused Photo RAW, and you would have ended up with an all-color image again, or at least not quite the mask you were after by using just simple gradients. Why did I throw this on the screen like that? It's so I can walk through the changes in the masking properties area and show you what's happening underneath, and then we'll see how to tap into that power. So with this mask applied, let's have a look beneath what's really happening here. So we'll come over to the filter and I'll click on the black and white mask, the swatch there that's showing me the mask here. I get my masking properties, and this layout's a little bit different than it was in prior versions. We have all the similar list of things across the top that we saw in the Local tab for applying a mask to a subject, a background, etc. All of the different masking tools are all here, and you'll notice if I stop on each one, I can either add or subtract any one of these. Underneath the target mask is the same mask that I have here. What is my ultimate mask for this filter? And the reason I say ultimate is because of this new part, mask layers. Let me open this up. This is new. Recall I added two gradient masks to this photo. The first one masked away from the upper right corner, and the second one masked away from the lower left corner. And the sum of those, I have removal from upper right, removal from lower left, ended up with this final target mask, kind of like a reflected gradient, although not uniform. The upper left is a little bit wider than the lower right. And that is what's going on beneath. Each time I grab a masking tool and say, let me add something else to the mask or subtract something, let me do some change to the mask, Photo RAW is adding a mask layer. And that becomes powerful because we can also manipulate each one of the mask layers individually. I'll turn on my mask view just to do an overlay here, right? I can say, well, what if I don't want that portion of the mask right now? I don't have to have it there. Same thing for the other side. And you'll notice this little hamburger menu, this little triple line here. For any one of these mask layers, I can invert it, I can remove it, I can disable it. We'll come back to mode in a while. And then refine the mask. I can do all sorts of things with the refinement of it. Change the levels, which doesn't make too much sense for a gradient, but I could feather it even more if I wanted to. Again, for a gradient, a little less interesting. For different types of masks, more interesting. But I have all of that control at each individual masking tool, as well as the final mask that is targeted, ultimately what's happening to, in this example, my black and white filter. So this is a lot of power at your fingertips. And so much so that I'm really working in the mask properties area, because if I needed to do something additional, like mask layer, didn't mean to collapse that. If I want to do something like, I have a brush, I want to take away this black and white from here for some reason. I've just grabbed a brush, it made a new mask layer. If I were to work with masking tools, right? And let's say, just for the sake of argument here, the line mask. I want to remove from, I don't know why I would do this, but let's just say I wanted to remove this, the black and white from that area here where the little sailboat is. It's now added a fourth mask layer. And each one of these, I have all of those controls where I can refine the mask and feather out. If I press my O key, watch that line mask, crisp, super feathered, and I'm doing it just to my line mask, not to any of the other components. And then the sum total becomes this particular filter, this particular mask for this filter. This is how these mask layers are working. You can combine all of your different masking tools in some pretty interesting ways. Why don't we go now through a more realistic example? We'll use this photo again where I want to do a certain kind of treatment to the wood grain in the background of the photo. And we can leverage some of these additional properties in the mask properties area to accomplish that pretty readily. All right, so let's get rid of this black and white filter and let's close all that down. Let's pop over to the locals. We'll do something with locals. And I mentioned the wood grain. Let's darken the wood a little bit. And probably the shortest path to being done here is to add a gradient. The gradient's there. And let's darken it with, I'll just take exposure down and maybe take the shadows down. I think we'll even add this little structure. Why don't we make the wood darker but pop? So rotate that around so I'm affecting the top half of the photo. And if I can get my cursor in there, we'll position that right about there. And so we take a look at our mask and it's a pretty basic just gradient, right? We'll click on our masking swatch and sure enough, we have the adjustment that's been added. And see is the adjustment. And then if I were to change this to, let's say, darken the wood, now we know what that is exactly targeting. We have one mask layer. I need to do a little bit more here, right? We have this kind of mask. We need to erase more things. And so what can I subtract? I can subtract a color range. I'll say subtract. If I pick like the seat color, now I look at my O key here and I kind of start working this so that I'm removing even more of the wood grain, or not the wood grain, the non-wood grain, getting closer. And from here, I'll leave this mask view on. Probably the next shortest path to done is subtracting with a line mask. So I'll do a subtract and then just kind of do a few of these polygons. There's one. And I'm not going to worry too much about the, well, I guess I can kind of do it this way. If I really wanted to get the middle part of that windowsill there, or not windowsill, but the separation between them, something like this. You're going to get the idea here. I won't bore you to death with me trying to more accurately mask. The point I want to show you here is how these things can combine together, and then turn off the mask view. Now as I adjust the sliders, you see it's really just the wood grain that's being affected. Now could I have done something like that with, well, prior versions of Photo RAW? Sure, but I would have had to been a lot more careful about each one of the mask selections, because, for example, if I made a mistake with that line mask in previous ones, I would be undoing. Well, here I can just say, oh, you know what? I messed up on this one here, this one window. Let me get rid of it and redo that one piece, as opposed to what was previously happening is you were working with this sum total mask. This is everything that you had. Made a mistake, go back to the drawing board and start again, right? So the mask layers allow you to have more control. If something isn't quite right with one of the portions of the mask you worked on, you have the ability to change it. And of course, all of this stuff is copyable, right? Just like every other mask we have, same principles for copying it. Let's go ahead and do that as a quick example. There's a nice photo filter tobacco. It adds a nice brown tone to it. And here I have my photo filter. I can just paste that mask. I've got all of those same components from the gradient to the color range all the way up through the different line masks. So now I have this, nice browning done. If I juice that up a little bit, nice, brown tone to that windowsill back there, and so on down the line. So you can add, you can subtract all of these different portions of our masks. One more time with that before and after, courtesy of combining all of these different pieces. In this case, I combined a gradient, a color range, and a bunch of line masks. You saw earlier I did things with brushes. Every one of the different masking components that you have, you can do this with. Let me show you another example using Mask AI, where we're using kind of like Super Select, but we're able to pick things, because that's another workflow that we use a lot, and we can tap into these mask layers with that too. And for this image, let's do some dynamic contrast work. Want to add it to the mountains, the trees, and this fallen tree in the foreground. We'll use masking to do that. Dynamic contrast, this will add things everywhere. Actually, let's not do it that way. Let's add dynamic contrast, but let's do it with flora. And we'll do it with natural ground is picking up a couple of things there. I'm going to skip that. Not the water, that's too much, but the mountain. Want the mountain. A little bit of cleanup I'd do in the sky later. But let's just, for this purpose here, dynamic contrast to those two areas. All right, we have our mask. Let's open up our masking properties, and we can see it did a mask AI with two regions, flora and mountain, just what we wanted, right? There it is, right? It got things through here. As I mentioned, a little bit of cleanup. I'd remove some of that stuff from the blue area. As a matter of fact, we can do that. Let's go ahead and do a brush, subtract. I've got my brush there, lower that down. I'll activate the perfect brush for edge detection, and then just kind of do a couple of clicks in the blue area. One, I'll turn on the overlay so you can see the next one. 2, 3, and I'll do a command click to kind of lock that in, and maybe a couple of other ones here. You get the idea. But really what I want to add in with the dynamic contrast, and let's make this surreal so we can really see what's going on. You see it really hitting hard in the mountains there. Sorry, I can't look at that too much longer. Let's just do maybe like that. I also want to have it on this log in the foreground, and none of the Mask AI auto detection regions gave me just that fallen tree. So we'll use the Quick Mask AI to do that, and we'll do it right here from Mask Layers. We'll go here, Quick Mask AI. I want to add something else to this mask. Let the analysis happen here on the image. And now I've got my cursor here, and I start hovering over this. I'm going to get it pretty quickly. Get the whole log here. Okay, 3 clicks. That's going to do it. And we'll do the checkbox there at the upper right, and the mask will get updated. I have a new mask layer, but the sum total is my mountains, my evergreens, and then the nuanced, quite nuanced quick mask. And if I want a little bit more on that mask there, the quick mask, we have other options to do that as well. I could do another quick mask. I could add a little brush. I can do a variety of things here. But all of those pieces added together, I now have before and after adding the pop that I need to just the trees and that foreground log and nothing else. And like all things, I can copy that and maybe I'll bring it over to a local and say, just for quick and dirty, give me a sky. But what I'm really interested in doing is pasting my mask down, which is everything from before, and then inverting it and saying, and now, darken other parts of the image. Maybe right there, just so I can downplay the water, the sky, and draw more attention to, the beautiful mountains and evergreens with this piece of foreground interest. So that's one more example of just taking a few of these tools, combining them together, and I'm working right in the masking properties area. I mentioned intersect. This video is getting a little bit long, so I think I'll stop this one here and call this the overview of the new things in the masking properties, where we can add and subtract different all the masking components right in one place. You can build up some complicated masks relatively quickly and not lose control. So each one of those individual mask layers you can refine and adjust as necessary. I'll get another video posted about the intersect mode. That one's quite interesting as well, and it probably warrants its own explanation. So it's good that we're gonna stop this one here. I'll have another video posted soon on intersect. Any other questions, go ahead and drop them below. And until next time, my name is Scott Davenport. Have fun.